die Serena das auch für uns oder macht sie einen eigenen?
Ja, für uns. Eigentlich. Also sie macht auch einen Film daraus, aber das ist dann auch für uns.
Und was wollen die gern? Dass man in die Kamera guckt oder ist egal? So wie man in den Raum reinspricht.
Ja, ist schon so gut, aber ja.
Spezielles Licht.
Ja,
Schummrig.
Schummrig, ja.
Wisst ihr eigentlich, ob die Esterat so ist?
Ja,
Ich habe sie gesehen von ein paar Tagen.
ja.
Ist so. Die hast du ja gesehen und die Caro.
Beide da und die Caro. Caro, grüß Nelly, Entschuldigung. Are we live? Are we on? Ja, ist die Tür. Danke. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition, the 5th edition of the online live stream colloquium of our online course on the healing of love, Terra Nova, Global Revolution and the Healing of Love. And welcome to the participants here of the Tamara Summer. We are here on the 11th day of the Tamara Summer for all those listening in the world. And I'm looking forward to this coming hour where I will bring questions from our students of the course on the current unit on healing water and healing love, a new relation to life. And I'm here with Sabine Lichtenfels and Bernd Müller. Thank you for being here. Bernd Müller has been in Tamara for around 10 years. He is a nature researcher and a water specialist and has been one of the people most centrally involved in creating the water retention landscape in Tamara. And he now heads the Global Ecology Institute in Tamara, promoting a new water paradigm all over the world. And Sabine Lichtenfels, who I think most of you know by now, but I will anyway just repeat that she is the co-founder of this project of Tamara and of the Healing Biotopes project, a co-founder of the Global Love School and author, deep source of spiritual and sexual knowledge on love. So I'm glad to have these two sources of knowledge with me on stage, and we will just begin. First question from, actually a woman close to my heart, speaking about water and love, Talita from Brazil. It's great that you're in this course. And Talita asks, actually 3 questions in one, so we will see how we do this. I don't understand in exactly what way we can consider water as a living being. What is the definition of life we are working with here? But more importantly, I am interested in the idea that those 3 things, eros, water, and life, are all governed by the same rules. What can those rules be? Also, how do we find out what those rules are? You want to take it as a whole package, or should I divide it up?
We start with the first one.
Yeah, so the first question was about how can we, in what way can we say that water is a living being, and what is the definition of life that we are working with? I think this goes to you.
The second part is very important in this question. What is the definition of life? Because that is not clearly defined. And for me, the approach to find out what is water is bringing me to the answer to the question of what is life. I could start quoting an Austrian water researcher, Viktor Schauberger, who lived 100 years ago, who said water has consciousness. And if it is like this, we would be very close to say then water must be connected to life or be a living being. But how can we prove that scientifically?
Yeah.
I did choose another way to find an inner answer in that starting to research the question, what is water? First of all, what is water? 30 years ago or 35 years ago, when I was in a university studying civil engineering, putting this question, what is water? From my professors at that time, I got the most stupid answers. The only thing I knew is that is not right, what I get there presented as answers. And so I did start to study alternative researchers. One of them was very crucial for me, Emoto, a Japanese researcher who did research on the quality of water and who could prove that water is reacting on information and it is changing its character according to the information field that the water is in. That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Through this, if we go follow this research and make that experience and know that this is true, suddenly in water we have an opposite we can communicate with. And that was for me the crucial clue or turning point where I said, okay, I don't know really whether Viktor Schauberger is right when he says water is a living being, but I want to know it. So I took myself 1 year time and said, now for 1 year I will live as if it were right. Just to once open myself, behave in a way as if it were true that water is a living being. And through this, I personally did invite so many information that after a while, cellularly, this question disappeared out of my life. I don't have that question anymore, as I don't have the question whether you are a living being or not. If somebody would ask me, is Sabine Lichtenfels and Martin Winjecke, are they living beings? What should I say? For sure.
How can you prove that scientifically?
Yeah. And this is something I would rather invite everybody to find a relation to water, to perceive water, and once open that door and behave as if water would be a living being. And then through this, I did invite at that time cellular information that made this question obsolete.
Thank you. So maybe we go on with the second part. So she says, I'm interested in the idea that those 3 things, eros, water, and life, are all governed by the same rules. what can those rules be? Also, how do we find out what those rules are? Maybe this also would invite the two of you to respond.
I can maybe start. I just from the question before that for me it's really interesting that my research starts where definition ends. So it is in a way, how can I figure out whether water carries consciousness or not? It's only, I would say, only via deep listening, only via coming to this kind of awareness and where you find the resonance. And this is a new kind of science, a new kind of research. And this says that in the whole universe there is consciousness, and I can come in contact with this consciousness. And what is I? So you can ask and ask and ask without any end. And in this sense, eros and water, for me, it's just watching water and seeing how many different states of being water has and how it wants to be taken care for, how it reacts to light, how it reacts to darkness, how the different qualities come out. This is, I could very much compare to the watching eros. And what I said, if I watch water, I can learn so much from the water because, for example, that it really loves to have a free flow. Yeah? And this for me is with eros the similar. Eros itself is by its being, if I watch it, loving free flow. On the other side, the water likes to be in a vessel, to rest. And this I like to compare, that eros likes to be in a vessel where it can land, where it can sink. And there are so many things where I feel it's easy to compare and to understand some inner laws of those beings. Yeah, and I also there, it's nothing where I can prove. But if you watch, for example, water, if you bring the water into a straight flow, then I said it becomes violent. You can watch, yeah? Or if you carry the water in a way that you close with a big wall, the big lakes, and imagine this wall suddenly will be opened, it creates violence. And this you can also compare with the eros. It's very similar that we have done with the eros to bring it in clear directions. And if you then open the walls, it creates violence. But not water is violent and not eros is violent. So I only can always compare parts in it and see its teaching. Or water creates community if you take care for. If you take care for the water, many, many beings come around and will nourish them. And also this I feel as a beautiful comparison, that eros, if you really take care for the eros, it will create community, a new kind of community.
Thank you. Now, Sabine already mentioned a lot of possible rules. Do you want to add?
Could just add, if we are talking about natural energies, they come out of principles of life, out of life itself. And there for me is a major difference. We humanity did also create a system that is not according to life. We can also accept that. And information that are coming out of a system of exploitation are not the same like information that come out of a system of cooperation. So whatever I get in cooperation with life as energy and feedback and resonance is according to life. And whatever I get in resonance with a system of exploitation is at the end creating war. And there is for me a huge difference where I think there is a measurement where all of us, we know within ourselves whether we are supporting the one system or the others. And all kind of energy, erotic energy, natural energies, water flows, are depending. Whether water is coming out of a concrete channel, it is different than a water that is coming out of a meandering river and is clear, pure spring water. And we know that these two different systems life is coming from.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you already mentioned the connection between water and community. That like water actually always, if it's taken care in the right way, leads to community. And the next question is from Siri from Netherlands. She asks, does connection to a place, land and water change something inside of people that makes them more capable of also connecting to other human beings? And maybe also the other way around, is it crucial for building community, or can you also build community without a strong connection to a place and the land, including the water? I think it's a very beautiful question that I would again put to the two of you. Yeah.
Again, I like this question because I'm very much busy with this question: what connects human society with nature or with the land? And as I'm working a lot with water, as also a teacher or a mirror in nature to show me things there in water management, we can see there are kind of natural boundaries, which are the catchment areas from watersheds. And sorry, no, can you repeat?
What part?
The first part of the question I wanted to.
I mean, the first part was whether, like, connecting with land,
this connection
water,
to
whether
land.
it changes something inside and makes you more capable of building community.
And there again, I can repeat what I said before. If we live in a situation of exploiting nature, Earth, we will not be in contact. But through considering or perceiving nature, we can make contact and we can be in a cooperation. And for sure that has an cellular influence to our body, mind, soul, spirit, consciousness. When we can go even on one very pragmatic level of water being a carrier of information, as our bodies consist most part of water. When we are in contact with the information that the water of a landscape holds, we are in resonance with that. If we want or not, these waters of a land have an influence on us. Every water I drink is changing the information in my body. The only question is whether I do this consciously or not. Cheers. And there I see a huge chance when we manage to consciously connect and cooperate with the landscape that is surrounding us, that there is a resonance which is improving the quality of my living and the quality of the living conditions of the surrounding landscape.
Maybe I would add, because she asked also, is it also possible to build community without being in contact with the land, without being in contact with the water? And I would say, for sure it's possible. When we started in 1978, we were not mainly thinking about which land is calling us, or also not so deep about the water. But if you really want to build community on a deep level, you will be guided to all those other questions. And for example, in Tamera, I would say the opposite. I would say the land called us. And because it was such a big dream, such a big call, we also had to take the energy and the power, and more people feel called, and others don't feel called, they leave again. And I think this is, on a subconscious level, always working, but we are mostly not aware of this. And so there you also can, one deep part with the water, that we normally behave in a way that we believe there is not enough. And this creates a very crazy system which is working against life laws. And if we suddenly discover, wow, this is not true, and the water can be the teacher to discover this, there is enough water for all living beings if we treat the water right. And this is the same also in love. There is enough love for every person if we treat the love right. And these are, in a way, all we come to the consciousness. We discover that we've failed because we were not really in contact. And so in this sense, I would say at the end, the deeper sense of community will always guide us to the same discovery.
Yeah, thank you. I think the next question also goes on this, or continues on this. It's from Durrell from the United States. He asks, or he writes, in contemplating how to initiate healing in my love and social relationships, the idea of creating a, in quotation marks, love retention landscape came to my mind. Some comparisons have already been offered, such as trust and truth being to healing love what moist, cool topsoil is to healing the earth. Are there other comparisons that can be drawn between water retention and love retention landscapes? For example, is there a parallel for love to aligning lakes with the prevailing wind, or one for the creation of earth-retaining walls, swales, and terraces? So this is just to kind of go deeper into this analogy. Yeah.
I think for this I would like to start with the main water cycles before going into the details, because that is a beautiful research where I think everybody who's going into it will find these analogies in all details. This was very important in my research, that I figured out that what I see in nature is a mirror of our social structure, of our society. So that also means what nature mirrors me, I also find within myself, and I can and should first of all change it within me. But often, for me, it helps me to understand it in natural cycles and then look what does it mean for me socially. And one for me very, very powerful example is in the large water cycles, where we have water evaporating, falling down as rainfall, this rainfall being received by the earth body, recharging aquifer, coming out as spring water and then meandering in rivers back to the sea. In this cycle, natural cycles in intact ecosystem, we have very different qualities of water, like you said before. And in my perception, the most extremes, polarities in these cycles is the spring water as the most feminine quality of water, and the rainwater as the most masculine quality or polarity of the water. And if now we tell the story of the water cycle, what happens when rain is coming? In an intact ecosystem, the whole rainfall would be received by an open earth body, and through filtering into the earth body would mineralize, get the information of the ecosystem, recharge aquifer, and then coming out as spring water. In our current ecological situation, this receptor of the rainwater has been washed off, eroded. And this is when rainwater mainly becomes violent. And the same rainwater out of the same cycle comes to the earth, doesn't find vegetation, doesn't find topsoil, and suddenly, instead of filtering into the earth body, runs off over the earth. Gets a completely different movement. Instead of movements of vortexes, movements of digging into what we then call violent water. The rainwater is the same, but The problem is where the receptor of this energy is. So in ecosystem restoration, our main task is building this topsoil, building this receptor for rainwater through vegetation, diverse vegetation, and, like he said beautifully, building trust, building soil in the ecology as a foundation for the rainwater to be received, so for the whole cycles to function again. I think this is the one main example that is very clear and obvious to understand, and then all these details. What does a earth wall means, and how do you design? What does a meander means in natural movement? I think everybody knows that or experiences it while doing. What happens when the wind plays with the water and then the sun comes? We could hold a whole seminar about the question, what happens when sun hits water? There are people who say this interface is where creation happens. I don't want to say that it's true, but it could be that this is a very intimate interface where light hits the surface of water, and when then wind comes to it and moves this whole thing, there we start to describe, or first of all honor, the miracle of life. And for me it is beautiful that also in our work out there in ecosystem restoration we can play with these energies and learn from them to also be able to create retention spaces at the end for love capacity within us.
I would only add one thing as the analogy again, that the special thing is that we really come to awareness of the water cycle, and we watch it and we take care for it, and by this a social life is the effect. And to do the same with the human living being, with society, to watch the energies, not to put them out, not to say no. Imagine we would say, stop rain, stay outside. Or we always interfere in a way which creates all the damage. And this for me is the deepest analogy, to really understand and to go with this awareness, and then to be a caretaker for the energies. And there we will discover a lot of analogies. I also like very much to come to this awareness how much the spring water loves the darkness and needs the rest under the earth, not to be seen. And then it comes, and it's really a new energy coming out. And to take this in for our life as a symbol, that there are times where something doesn't want to be spoken, doesn't want to be shared. Wait until it's ready. Or like a little child, it comes out of water. The whole embryo is in the water, built like it's going through whole evolution. And then there is a day, now receive it. And if we fight this, we lose a lot of energy and life will be damaged.
Thank you. This is really a powerful image about the creation from darkness. There one feels it's really coming close to a core of life. Thank you for this. Now there are two questions from Cassie from the United States. She asks, it's about health and diseases. What are responsible actions that we can take with water and eros that take care of the health of the whole and the health of the individual? Fluids can carry and spread disease, both waterborne and sexually transmitted diseases. How do you take care of these issues and at the same time honor the wild in both areas?
That's a big
That's a
question.
big question.
Ja.
I hope I got it fully. Ist auch wegen Ansteckung.
Wegen
Okay.
sexuellen
Yeah.
Krankheiten und Wasserkrankheiten.
I can start with the level of water, that's easier. On the ecological level, the other level, I don't know whether we fully can
Ja,
Yeah.
let's see.
answer here. But also,
I can say some things about it.
yeah.
Mm.
So, but I start.
Start.
or-
Ja.
The water needs diversity. Water is not a separate element from nature. So when we create systems where there is a lot of diversity, that helps to balance water out.
Oh.
Water is more resilient when around water and within the water there's more diversity. And there again you see that the whole tendency of our conventional society goes into a direction of monoculture and control of some species are in there, some there, some there. The natural process would be huge diversity mixed. And these systems are less vulnerable. They are much stronger. I remember that my mother was a midwife when she was working still. She said when she started to work, the hospitals were sterile. Everybody was afraid from germs and everything had to be sterile. And then they discovered after some years that the children born under these sterile conditions are very weak, are very vulnerable to diseases.
Mm.
And so they stopped with that. And said, there is a balance. A healthy organism can cope with bacteria and goes with them. A bacteria doesn't cause a disease only because it's a bacteria. It's another process. And probably we are going in this direction to say what mainly creates the disease is the fear of, and not the bacteria itself. And in water one can prove that a lot. On the one hand, the diversity of an intact ecosystem and also the information that is in the water has an influence to how water is reacting. Who wants to know that more detailed? Emoto made beautiful studies about that. The same waters with a different information has a different character. There's another researcher, Grander is his name, from Austria, who developed water with self-healing properties, where he could prove that water is going through a self-healing process if we give in the right information. So there is a whole different reality than this linear, there's a bacteria and an infection and a disease. This is, in my opinion, when I observe nature, a man-made mistake, which has nothing to do with natural principles.
Thank you.
Was heißt Ansteckung?
Contagion.
Contagion. Yeah, I think we cannot answer in the whole complexity to this whole issue of contagion. But for me, it's very important that a really healthy organism will not take a sickness from someone else. So a sickness beyond that, of course, if the water is not strong, not powerful, not healthy, then it can carry bacteria. And if I'm also not strong and healthy in my whole system, then I take the field from the information of a sickness. But we should never forget that behind everything there, the core is information, where what we take over. And in this sense, we cannot separate this. A healthy organism where it's the complexity, the diversity, this will not become sick. So the sickness is always also telling us that something in our system is missing. Like the Aborigines, they never take a sickness personally. They say, if someone in our tribe is sick, there is a reason that something in the whole complexity of information is missing. So look what it is, and then healing can appear. And the other things, I think it would need a whole full seminar about healing and sickness, what it's about.
Okay. Thank you so far, anyways. And she has another question. As we were speaking a lot about in this unit, also about Eros being a universal power, and where it's not about relating it to just one person, but really to life itself. And so she asks, what does truly embedding myself in the earth and not another human being look like? And what do I do with all the longing?
I myself asked me again and again in my longing, what is it what I'm longing for? Because if the longing is there, then we often are very driven and we want to fulfill it and we are not really centered. And so for me, also there, watching how nature works, it's always this kind of coming to the awareness and from there starting to act. And I discovered quite often when, in the moment when I really understood what my longing is looking for, something what I normally run behind, and it's there. And suddenly I become a attractor for what I'm longing for. This is a real secret. If you stay long enough and really contemplate, what is it? And then you go to the vision, you connect with it, and suddenly you feel it is already there. And something comes to your whole body system like a joy, and then you create a magnetic field that it can happen. Yeah, I try to answer quite short.
And the first part, what does truly embedding myself in the earth and not another human being look like?
Okay, yeah. This is I don't know whether a woman is asking, but for me it's really very special that we women have to come back to our real source in the universe. And this is very, very connected with the earth and with the being matter, being flesh, and accepting this and knowing that all this carries consciousness. And if then I learn to become silent in this, then I feel that beyond all longings, there is this big awareness for life. And this helps to center. Then you will not dedicate your life anymore towards a man. A man is important, but first find this being centered in life itself. And this is done, everybody has to find its own way, but mainly it's coming to consciousness, coming to awareness. And looking how much fear blocked us in really being feminine and daring to connect with the earth and feeling that we are part of her.
Thank you. So, more questions from the United States, from Micah. I think it goes to Bernd, this one. What do we do about what has already been done? For example, if a large concrete dam has been made, and if torn down, it will, at least in the short run, cause a lot of flooding and destruction of communities surrounding the river downstream from it. So how do we deal with this situation that we are seeing right now?
2 weeks ago, I was for 1 week in a situation giving a consultation in exactly such a situation where a community was trying to protest against the building of a large-scale dam, and they didn't succeed, and now they have on the feet of their land a large-scale dam. And I tried to convince them to say that your problem is not the dam. At the moment it's not the dam, but if you create or restore your ecosystem in the upstream of the dams in a way that no rainwater floods would come down that make the dam necessary, because sometimes they are really necessary. They are not, in my opinion, not a good answer at all, but they are responding also a problem of our ecosystems, and that is huge amounts of runoff of rainwater. That if they are not stopped, they would flood entire cities. This is this building of these concrete dams in the river flows is the wrong answer. So what people can do that are living upstream is work on retaining the water where it falls and make the dam obsolete. And then the dam would, instead of being flooded with rainwater and then going down again, would convert into a lake, which is reflecting the level of the aquifer. And then one can work on policies that oblige people to let a constant flow of water going down the ancient rivers, which is very important, not to close these dams entirely. And in European legislation, for example, this is embedded. No? Legally, it would be impossible to build a dam and not allow a constant flow of water going through. So those who are living upstream can work on retaining rainwater to make the dam obsolete, and those who are working downstream would have to find a way to bring back a constant flow into the riverbed. We could do that. I was very, very happy that we were successful after an international water conference in Jericho in 2011, that the Jordan River became got a base flow again. Since then, somewhere in midst of 2011, there is a constant flow of water again sent into the Jordan River that before was blocked completely. That makes a huge difference. And that is possible still while these concrete walls are standing. And how they will look like when they are not needed anymore, that is a different question. Tearing them down is probably not a good solution and not necessary. And another aspect is that we have to know that many of these dams are built because of scarcity in the areas of water supply and energy supply. And this whole topic of energy supply can be addressed in a completely different way of cooperation with life again instead of exploitation. And then the drinking water and irrigation issue for sure has to be addressed decentralized and not centralized. There are the main obstacles that nowadays our society likes centralized structures, because through centralized structures it's easy to manipulate people. When you have the water in a dam and all the water is going through pipelines, the one who is opening or closing the tap is making the people move. Where you open the tap, people would move. Where you close it, they have to leave. So this is an instrument of power in our times for people who are not regionally autonomous. We were, 10 years ago when I came to Tamera, we were fully dependent on external energy supply and food supply, which is water supply. And that was one political, very important question for us to answer. Is it possible to step out of this, knowing that through our dependency on globalized systems, we create enormous suffering all over the world? So, local, regional autonomy can be achieved whether the dam is there or not, and they will make the dams obsolete. And then the question what to do when they are not needed anymore. These are beautiful pieces of art for artists, what to do with a concrete dam.
In China.
Thank you. Oh, this was really a surprising answer for me. Yeah, and showing so much of a possible future picture. There's another question. How would we persuade people who already have put their work into controlling the environment by mining or building or industrial farming that it is worthwhile to change their habits and approach to the world? And also, in another person asked, like, have we talked with farmers on this matter? How do we really raise consciousness for this kind of, I mean, actually for what you just described, so that this vision can come true?
Oh, the first answer I think is make the vision visible, bring the information to the world that other systems can exist, that it's possible. And in this sense, when you see, for example, in Tamara, if people come here and see that it was nearly a desert and now there is so much water, it's like, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to support that more different places can show this reality and then spread the information and not fight the other ones. I just want to mention the pilgrimage, Walking Water, which started in the United States last year. And they went to the farmers, they went to the big companies, they went everywhere, simple, asking why they act like this, deeply asking, and then bringing shortly the first messages, and mainly to bring people together. Indigenous people as well as for example, the mayor from Los Angeles, or many different people, to inform them and to make it visible that it's really part of healing of this globe, not only because of the water, also because of the climate. It's so important, and this is nearly not seen. There are so many debates about climate change and the danger, but the water, changing the system of the water will change the climate in an amazing way and heal.
Thank you.
It's urgent, so because of this one starts to speak a bit more.
Yeah.
Because it's really urgent.
And what we live here very much is coming also out of the experience that persuading people is not really a very efficient method, but living it. This building models where you live what you feel that is right, that will seduce people to see the truth and to say, if that is true and that is so easy, why should I complicate my life so much? Mainly people who have that question already. Trying to persuade people who don't have the question is a lot of work and most probably not very efficient. Even though it's good to give the information there, but the main work, I think it's also one of our main motivations, live what we are, what we know that will be part of a new culture of cooperation. And show it.
Yeah, thank you. Now there is a question from Anne-Laure from Belgium, and I think it's also a question that comes up for everybody who thinks along all of this teachings about the possibility of restoring nature. And she asks, so all of this healing rivers, healing soil, the oceans, permaculture, organic agriculture, and so on, how do we implement this on a large scale? How do we also kind of sensing this urgency that you speak of? We have not a lot of time to do this, and we have to go on a really big scale. How do we do it?
We are in this question too.
Yeah.
But my main hope and belief is that what I said before, if the information comes clear enough to many important places, then action must be the next step. And for me, Rajendra Singh, for example, in India, he is a beautiful example. He brought many rivers back to flow in India, and only with discovering the wisdom of water. And then he brought the villages to act. And of course, we think about also in Portugal how to cooperate with the farmers, how to bring it as a wisdom to the region is the next step, and we are thinking about it. We are planning a pilgrimage now in autumn, and to spread the information. I hope also that the field building will help. The more we really discover the depth of the necessity of the change.
And I would like to add on a on another level of ecosystem restoration, we are with very specific global action plans.
Yeah.
Some weeks ago, I wrote a text with the title New Water Paradigm. And for me, the first step is this, to understand this new water paradigm, a new way to look at water and live with water. But that should come out of understanding the global importance of it. What Sabine said, most people, when we talk about climate change, are talking about adaptation to climate change. When we bring in water to the climate debate, we can talk about climate restoration. This is not known. This is not accepted. We wanted to come with this information into the COP21 conference in Paris, and nobody wanted to listen yet. We try this again this year in Morocco, and there is more interest in that. And a dear friend of mine, Michal Kravček from Slovakia, a very extreme water specialist and knowledge carrier, he did formulate a global action plan for ecosystem restoration. Starting with understanding the global importance. This is important, that it's not people who think, what if I change something in my garden? But if you understand really the global importance of ecosystem restoration and scale it down to a very local action, then a lot of people can do and be a change within a short period of time. It is really amazing to see. We have a lot of examples where we can prove that already within one season, a whole region changes when most simple water retention measures are implemented. So I hope that this initiative for a global action plan for ecosystem restoration becomes popular. But we know that with this, we promote decentralized autonomous systems.
Yeah.
And we are still living in a political culture that doesn't really want this. What we often like to say, people who are living in decentralized autonomous structures have access to food, energy, water. They live a system of abundance. With that, they are ungovernable. They are free people. And our political reality is still that many systems don't support that. Because we are still heading a globalization that wants a system of control. Not because we don't know how we could restore climate. But because we maintain a system of scarcity out of political reasons, of control. It's a hard reality, but I think it's important to speak that out.
Yeah, and with the system goes the suppression of certain information that would enable this system change. And so I think it's really a political, almost obligation actually for conscious people to help promote this kind of information.
And get active very locally.
Yeah.
With the connection to this global information.
Yeah. Thank you for your fierce stand. And at the end I have 2 more questions. I mean, I have many more actually, but we will just get 2 more in that come back to this relation of water and love. Question from 2 women. The first, still from Anne-Laure from Belgium. She asked, do you have practices for liberating the feminine, for rediscovering the feminine? Do you try to heal the sexually distorted image somehow? I think she refers to the woman there. I would give it to you.
Yes, we are working for this since the beginning of the project, and how would I say it? In a way, feminine and masculine is carrying everybody of us, and the feminine part of thinking, the feminine part of perceiving things is blocked, full of fear. And so it's mainly the call to find back to this kind of snake wisdom, to this kind of intuition, to this kind of confirmation that we are sensual beings. And this is beyond relationship, it's a spiritual aspect of life. And in Tamera, we started with the Global Love School to deal with all the questions on the human, social level, but then also on the what we call Terra Deva, a place where we try what makes it possible to cooperate with water, with a wild boar, with a snake, with a rat. Is it true that they carry consciousness, and is it true that we can learn to communicate with it? Is it true that I can listen to the earth and I will hear if an earthquake comes, for example, and I can say this is practice. It's really a training of the consciousness. It's often very connected with fear. It's not so long time ago that we were witches and it was not allowed to do this research. But people who come for longer, they can study with us. And it's amazing how objective those things can be. It is a science. It's not just this esoteric flying up. It's a real concrete research work. And I love it, and I dedicate a lot of my time to this work.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And the last question I would put now is from Rocio from Mexico. And she asked, is there any relation between projecting the big mother on the woman with the way we treat Mother Earth and water? And she wrote more, and it's kind of the question goes kind of both in the direction of how this is expressed in relationships and also the way we concretely deal with earth and water.
Our relationships very often mirror the situation of this globe. And we have done to the feminine aspect of life the same like we have done to the earth. And I often say, as well as we need human rights, we need earth rights. And it's a common work. It's not that we say the masculine part is guilty and the feminine one needs freedom back. No, we are all connected. It were mothers who created the heroes of the patriarchal culture or educated. But it's really true. We have to figure out what does it mean to create a culture of partnership where the feminine and the masculine aspect are really honored. And we see that this will also guide to a new kind of religion. In religion, there we see the core. It was so much driven out, the sexual aspect, the feminine aspect. The punishing father is in our cell system anchored, and danger, 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 hero. And there we are in a very, very deep system change. And I think, yes, the projection to the big mother and the projection how we treated the earth is related. And the longing to the big mother is also important. Just when I see now the birth of two young boys, we had 2 births here in Tamera, and seeing this, what is the mother for such a child? Why don't we mirror this in our culture, in our spiritual life? And there we women have to remember a lot and to dare to show and to speak. And this will also change our relation to water and to the earth a lot. And also the love between the sexes.
Thank you. Any addition you want to make?
Were beautiful words. I said it before, generally for me it is like this, that what we can see in nature and also on the whole planet as damage on ecosystem is a mirror of a damage in our behavior of life. So for me it's rather not this way that we do to our mothers what we see at the planet, but it's the other way around. We get this mirror in order to see really what we do and to be able to change it. And there's a very, very profound and direct correlation between the earth body and the feminine, and what do mainly patriarchal structures do to block this connection from women to their source, from water to the source, etc.
Yeah. Thank you very much to the two of you for all the wisdom that was shared this evening, and especially also for offering an insight into healing images for this world that we can focus on. And I also thank you for the call coming from the urgency of the situation. And may we connect with both in order to drive our actions with even more commitment. And I send greetings to all our students sitting in front of their computers, studying this. It's wonderful to see all your engagement and how you're with it, and to feel also the power of a continuum that opens up when we stay on the study line. So this is a really wonderful experience and very gratifying, I can also say, to receive all this feedback. So in this sense, I'm already looking forward to the next week, next Thursday evening, when we have the next and actually last colloquium of this online course. So
Yeah, thank
have a
you.
good evening. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Hausaufgaben.
Jetzt war der letzte